What's up, everybody? Noah Kiss are back here for another episode of Noah and Scottie Reviews. There's no Hallmark this week. We get 2 weeks off. Is it bittersweet? Absolutely yes. But you know what we are doing? We're at the very tail end of the year. This is not our best and worst list of 2023. These are just the best and worst of certain genres. This is not going to reflect our top 10, 15, or 20 films of the entire year. However, some of these films will be in there. We're not going to tell you where. We're not going to tell you which one they are. You'll find that out next week when we do our however many top films we're doing of the year. But we're going to be doing horror, action, and sci-fi. We're mixing those two together because they just mesh so well. And then we're doing comedy. But I'm going to throw in a couple of honorable mentions that I could not put in here because we aren't going to do a drama, because a drama could literally be any movie.
Yeah.
And then family or musical, there's only a certain number of those that I could even put into a top 5 or top 10. So I'm just going to show Oppenheimer and The Little Mermaid, because these are honorable mentions on any list. I don't care. Are these on my top 10 for next week? We'll have to see and find out. But one thing's for sure, we will be having a bit of a disagreement on certain top 10s, but you know what? It's going to be a good spirited debate next week. So which one do you want to start out with? Do you want to start out with the horror, the sci-fi and action, or the comedies?
We can do horror.
Horror? Okay. And would you like to start off first?
I'll let you go first.
Okay.
Since you're not the horror person.
Yeah. I am not the horror person. However, I will say this. I watched more horror movies than I have in any other year. And I only skipped 2 so far. I might do 1, but I'm definitely skipping the other. I'm not an exorcism film person, so I'm going to skip The Exorcist. And I give myself a few passes a year. But I also did not do The Nun 2. Mostly 1, because of time. 2, I have not seen The Nun. 3, I've not seen any of the other Conjuring films besides The Curse of La Llorona and the Annabelle films. So we could do those at some point. We'll just have to see what comes down the pipeline. But I'm not the horror person. I have 5 honorable mentions, 5 best of, and 5 worst of. So I'm going to go with the honorable mentions first. These are the ones that did not make my list. And we have not talked about any of these yet. So I don't know what your list is like. I don't know. Well, of course I know what my list is because I made the damn thing. But let's start off with the honorable mentions. I have No One Will Save You. This was a Hulu film that was very, very fun. There was almost no dialogue in this, which seemed to be a trend in 2023. We had another film that you watched, but I did not, called Silent Night. Very little to no dialogue, but this one was actually good. This had... Yeah, well, from what you told me.
Yeah.
I've not seen Silent Night. I don't know if I will. But No One Will Save You was a very good sci-fi horror film with very good performance and an intriguing premise. It just didn't capitalize on everything I wanted it to. I thought it could have used a little bit of dialogue to flesh out the story a little bit. Maybe give the character a bit more of a... Do I want to say a character connection? We had a connection with her character, right? But I wanted more from it. Next up, I have Till Death Do Us Part. This is a film very little people have seen, and it's a shame because you and I were legitimately excited about this. I don't know about you, but my favorite style of horror is the slasher and revenge flicks. Mm-hmm. Like a Revenge or like a Till Death Do Us Part. This was all about, and correct me if I'm wrong, this was all about a bride who was killing the groomsmen.
Yep, that's what it was.
I'm trying to not spoil anything, but this is definitely one that was super duper fun. It was overly long, I thought, but definitely a very good film. I may purchase it at some point. We'll just have to see how low it gets. If it goes to the $5 bin at Walmart, I'll definitely buy it for $5. This is the one I almost skipped, and it's Evil Dead Rise. I'm not a possession film fan. Okay? As you know, I'm not an exorcism fan or a possession film fan. However, you're so adamant about this damn film. I remember you were coming out of the theater, and what you text me was like, "Holy shit!" And I'm not going to say the exact words, not to spoil anything, but I'm like, "Holy shit!" Well, he clearly enjoyed it.
Yep.
I watched this. I told you I was going to watch this, and I did. I watched this a couple days ago, and this was a really damn good horror film. It was not as creepy or scary as I thought it was going to be. The marketing did not do itself any favors, and as I have not seen any of the other Evil Dead films, I didn't know if this was going to be a possession film, like a full-on possession film with some gore. This is more of like a gory fun film than a possession film. The blood and gore is what really steals this here, and our lead performance from the girl who is possessed is freaking phenomenal. The makeup on her is just great. The costume design is great. The cinematography is fantastic. The overall mood and lighting of this film is fantastic. I just thought that I was going to hate this film. I legitimately thought I was going to hate this film. I thought I was going to pee my pants because these trailers scared the bejesus out of me. I'm not kidding you. These trailers scared the bejesus out of me. And they did the right thing by showing the scares in the trailers. Because if they showed you everything in the trailers, it kind of ruined the film. I'm glad knowing now that I watched this film, that I gave this film a shot. I gave it a shot. I did not love it, but I liked it enough to give it an honorable mention on the horror list. And I think that says something about me as a non-horror major fan. Next up is Talk to Me. I was not going to do this film either. However, Talk to Me was one that everybody was talking about. It's a sort of a possession film, but it's more of like a drama more than anything. This is a film all about these kids who basically get a high after playing with this hand, really. That's what it is, and it possesses them, and it is the repercussions of that. Next up is Five Nights at Freddy's. Coming out of this film, I hated this freaking thing. I hated this thing. However, the more I think about it, right, this isn't really a horror film. It's not really a horror film. It's not what the games were, from what I've seen of the games. It's not really what the games were. This is more of a drama. It adds in a couple different subplots that throws in a couple horror elements. But it's labeled as horror. It's Five Nights at Freddy's. It has horror elements. So I'm counting it as horror. Going into next month, I'll probably sit down and rewatch this in January or February and give my second thoughts on this, because I have not given my full review after a second watch. But now we get into the top 5 best. This list is going to be completely different from yours, and I absolutely know it. But that's fine. Number 5 is Totally Killer. This is an Amazon Prime film that is mixed with Scream and a time loop film, sort of a time loop film. And I really enjoyed this film. It was gory, it was funny, fantastic lead performance. Number 4 is going to be Megan. I wanted to see this in theaters. I just didn't get around to it. Some things happened, but it came out. It came out at just the right time. I had the house to myself. I rented it for $20, and I went, you want to know what? It's still January. I can count this as a January movie to rank. And I really enjoyed this film. It's stupid. It's fun. It knows what it is. Give me Megan 2. Make it as dumb as this one. Don't do what you did. Give it an R rating. I mean, the PG-13 cut was fine. The R rating, and I get why they did it because of money. This was a horror film that you could take your family to if you wanted to. There's not a lot of cussing. There's not a lot of sex. There's not a lot of nudity. There's not a lot of graphic violence. In the unrated version, there's a lot more graphic violence. It's gorier kills. It's bloodier. And that's the version that you watched first. I watched the PG-13 cut because there was no unrated cut first. But this is a film I really enjoyed, and I'm finally glad to have this. I got this as part of a Black Friday deal, and I wasn't paying no $20 to buy this on physical when I just rented it for $20 a few months ago. I was cheap. I was cheap, and I said, "You want to know what? $10 sounds good," and it was $9.99. Oh, this is one, right? This is one that's going to be remembered for the wrong reasons. This is Scream 6. We're not going to get into the drama again. However, there's no hiding that I love Melissa Barrera. I love her to death. I really like Jenna Ortega. I've had a crush on Hayden Panettiere ever since I Love You, Beth Cooper. And with my favorite show being Friends, I love Courtney Cox. To me, from what I remember, this is the weakest Scream film. However, I've only seen the other ones once except for one. I've seen the first Scream 2 or 3 times. And as we will say at the very tail end of this podcast, we will be doing something with the Scream films next week, which I'm very excited about. But this is a very fun film. I was the only one in my theater to see this. My theater was stupid and did not get this on opening night. Instead, I got to see 60 freaking 5.
Hey, that's a good one for me.
Hey. I'm not saying it wasn't good, because it was. But seeing all the freaking trailers for this, I'm like, oh, Lord, I would much rather see Scream 6 in theaters first than see 65 first, if you get what I'm saying. I'm more of a Scream fan than I am a dinosaur fan. But 65 is a perfectly solid film. Scream 6 is a better film than 65. I will say that. I don't own 65 yet, but I will at some point. Scream 6 is a very fun film. I just thought that the ending was a little bit too much like another Scream film. And I kind of saw the ending coming. But next up is going to be Knock at the Cabin. I did a very interesting double feature with this one. I think you remember this as well. I went into 80 for Brady first. I went into 80 for Brady, and then I saw Knock at the Cabin. Yeah. Knock at the Cabin, I mean, I'm an M. Night Shyamalan fan. I like old. I love Split. I even enjoy The Happening. Is The Happening a good movie? By all means, no. No, it's not. But I think that this is probably his best film in a good while. Really. This is a film that I love Dave Bautista in. Rupert Grint is fantastic in here. I love Jonathan Groff and, I'm not going to remember his name. Ben Aldridge. And Ben Aldridge in. I love this movie to death. It is the perfectly knit story. Dave Bautista gives his all in this. He's creepy. I could have done without a couple of the close-ups because I did not ever want to be that close to Dave Bautista's face. But I've been watching the man on TV for over 15 years, and I've never seen him that up close before, and that was uncomfortable. But Knock at the Cabin is a very, very good horror/thriller film that gave me everything I wanted. Can't wait to rewatch this one next year. And I can't wait for M. Night Shyamalan's daughter's film as well as his next film next year. Now, obviously, I don't have a physical for this one yet. I've been cheap. I've been waiting for this to drop to maybe like $10 on Amazon. This is a movie that you sent me the trailer for first. And I went, this looks okay. It looks fine. but I was not expecting this. Cobweb. Cobweb is the best horror movie of the year. It gave me everything I wanted, except no horror movie is without its flaws. I could have done with some better effects with the ending, right? Without giving anything away, because the trailer doesn't give you a real feeling of what the movie is actually about and what happens towards the end of the film. But there's my quick thoughts on Cobweb. I think it's a great film. Can't wait to own it on Blu-ray and watch it many, many more times over. But there's that. And now we'll move on to your top 5, and then I'll do my top 5 worst.
Yeah. So just for my top 5, most of them are almost the same, to be honest. But so starting out, it would be The Exorcist Believer. For me, I know that one got a lot of hate from pretty much everybody, but I enjoyed it. I liked how it was somewhat different, and to me, it kind of revitalized the Exorcist franchise. But that's just my opinion on it. I know most don't see it that way. Next would be Cobweb. One that definitely surprised me. I didn't know what to expect going into it. The trailer looked decent, but I thought it was going to be like another like Z or something like that. Something that's just okay, whatever, one-time watch, but definitely was a big surprise. And then you got Megan, one that did not expect to enjoy as much as I did, but enjoyed that one quite a bit. And then Scream 6, which it has its issues, still really good though. And then they're kind of almost tied for me in a way. It'd be Evil Dead Rise and It's a Wonderful Knife. I enjoyed both of them. Would have to really sit down and think about kind of which one I would enjoy the most. Probably be Evil Dead Rise, but to me, those were kind of very close together there at the number 1 spot. So
yeah,
but that'd be my top 5 horror.
And one thing that we don't do, right, when it comes to a horror movie, right, you're more of the horror guy. So if you really enjoy a horror film like The Exorcist Believer, right?
Yeah.
We're not the kind of friends or critics who will sit there and go, well, you're wrong. This. Well, number one, I haven't seen the damn thing yet, and I never will. But each film is going to hit somebody differently.
Yeah.
Like the Knock at the Cabin hit me differently than other people did, because other people really didn't like this film. And I completely get it. But it was just a film that worked for me and for my style of horror, like a thriller style of horror. Oh, I really enjoyed that. But for the worst, here we go. We got some real bad ones here. You have seen 4 of these. You have not seen one of them.
Okay.
Number 5 is Unwelcome. Unwelcome had a promising premise, right? It had some real promise. The beginning was fantastic. The first 20, 25 minutes, I could have had more of that.
Yeah.
But after that, it gets super stupid. The effects are awful. And the story just gets overly long and too drawn out for my liking. And it's just too much for me. I didn't enjoy that film way past the 20-minute mark.
Yeah.
Number 4 is Pet Sematary Bloodlines. Definitely the weakest Pet Sematary film I've seen. However, I have not seen Pet Sematary 2. So I can't say. I have read the book, I've seen the original film, and I've seen the remake. I really enjoy the original film. It's campy, it's dumb, but Zelda's freaking scary. The remake is fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. It does enough to change it up, I guess. But Pet Sematary Bloodlines, I don't think we needed this. You and I were overly excited for this one because we really enjoyed the Pet Sematary story. I thought you could have done the Pet Sematary movie again, like reboot the film again, but do it as a series and lengthen it out a little bit. Maybe do the whole book as a 1-season show. But I enjoyed that one enough to give it 2 stars. I'm not saying it's god awful, but it's definitely the weakest one out of the Pet Sematary films. Number 3 is The Jester. I watched this one because of you. It was because of you. I don't think we were doing the podcast yet.
No.
But the trailer came out. You sent it to me, or you told me about it, and I went, okay, this could be good. It's not terrible. Again, it's not terrible. Giving the Jester more of a character, like give him more to do than you did in this thing, then it could have been a bit more promising. This was boring. The acting was bad. The blood and gore was decent. The lead guy, the Jester, was very creepy. I enjoyed that, but give him more to do. Give this a better story and a Wanso. I'm not even going to say a once over. Give this screenplay like 5 times over, 5 to 7 more times over. Give this thing a better script, and you could have had a better film.
Yeah.
Number 2 is Don't Look Away. Don't Look Away. But The Killer Mannequin. On to number 1. I have nothing to say about that film. I legit have nothing to say about that film at all. It is forgettable. It's stupid. It's bad. It's boring.
Yeah.
But this one is the worst of them. This is The Flood. I don't know if you know what The Flood is.
I know what it is. I just never watched it.
Yeah. The Flood is about these killer alligators or crocodiles, whichever one. It's a lower budget horror film about this hurricane, and these criminals are being I believe that this is the same one. These criminals are basically being held someplace, and alligators are after them now. The CGI is awful. It is poorly acted. The story had some promise. We've seen it done better with Crawl. Way better with Crawl. Super fun film. But just the worst horror film I've seen all year. Not the most boring, but the worst. I could easily flop Don't Look Away in The Flood back and forth. But The Flood is number 1 because of the poor CGI. But there's my worst horror films of 2023. And what's your worst horror films of 2023?
So first up would be Final Summer, which I think you watched as well.
Oh,
just, I mean, the potential was there. The story, though, they just really messed up towards the end with the story really bad. Could have been so much more fun of a film, but did not work out whatsoever. Then you got The Jester, one that they just done too much with. Yeah. They could have, if they would have focused solely on it just being a slasher or a Art the Clown style film like Terrifier. I mean, it could have been so much better. It had some elements of that, but they went in the wrong direction with that one. Next is Influencer, which was on Shudder, I think it is. And honestly, I barely remember much about this one. I think she basically takes, tricks these girls and tries to leave them for dead and take their identity, I think, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like it. It was boring, very forgettable. And then you have Don't Look Away, one that the potential was there. You know, if you could have done more with the mannequin, other than it just like popping up here and there, and I mean, you could have gave more to it. It could have been a ridiculously fun horror film, but they just didn't do enough with it.
No.
And my number one worst film was Kill Her Goats, one that I was just hoping for a gory, fun time with, and they basically went in such a stupid direction towards the end. You didn't get much of the killer whatsoever in this film. It was mostly just the girls running around half naked in the movie for most of the time, with a little bit of killer at the end. So it was, to me, the worst horror film that I watched of the year.
Mm-hmm. Now, I did not see Influencer, and I did not also see Kill Her Goats. And I forgot another horror film I skipped. And I'm not going to continue to skip this one. I am going to watch this one. It's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. I will be watching that one in January. It is streaming on Peacock. There's just other films I want to see before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it would make my worst. It's not going to make my best. It would not have made my best over my top 5. But hey, with the second one coming out next year, isn't it coming out in 2024? Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'll be watching that one, and I will, or we will inevitably be watching it and reviewing it on this channel. And you also have one on your channel as well.
Mm-hmm.
When do we see it? I don't freaking know. We definitely go to theaters to see it.
No. I'll watch it whenever I can. The first one I pretty well remember because I just rewatched that one recently.
Yeah.
So we'll just see when it comes to the second one coming out, because I don't remember what the release date is.
Mm-mm. I don't know if they're done shooting it yet or not, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to it, actually. But do you want to do the action and then the comedies?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Next up, we're going to do the action films. So I have a bunch of honorable mentions. And like you kind of had 2 tied for your number 1 horror, I also had mine. I also had some tied for the number 5 spot. So I have 6 in here. It's supposed to be a top 5, but I couldn't leave one of them out. So my honorable mentions, these were hard to leave off. Shotgun Wedding. This was stupid fun. This was so freaking fun. Jennifer Lawrence. Oh my God. Sorry, Lopez. We will be. I have Lawrence here in a little bit, but Jennifer Lopez in this action film. I believe it's Josh Duhamel, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed that film. It's stupid. It's fun. It knew exactly what it was, an action comedy that gave me everything an action comedy needs to keep me entertained. I enjoyed it overall. Transformers Rise of the Beasts. I remember this film so well. I enjoy this. It's stupid. It's fun. It's probably my second or third favorite of the Transformers films. Having not seen all of them, I can't really say that. But Ghosted is up next with Ana de Armas and Chris Evans. I loved this movie as a fun action rom-com, sort of. This trailer came out and it spoke right to me. It was going to be for me no matter what. I love Ana de Armas. Love Chris Evans. I love the cameos in here. The cameos are very nice. But I got to bring up Extraction 2 as well. The first Extraction was fine. It was a fine little action film. The ending, they retcon the ending a little bit, but I gotta say this film is stupid fun. It's awesome. The long action scenes make it well worth it. It doesn't feel overly long. It doesn't feel overstuffed. It's the perfect amount of action, comedy, and seriousness that you want in a action film starring Chris Evans. Definitely a stronger film than the first one. I hope we get a third one, because I think that he can do this in his sleep. He can do this in his sleep. Yes, I don't think we need a third one, but do I want a third one? Yeah, I do. So some people would put this one with horror. Some people would put it with sci-fi. I'm putting it with action and sci-fi. This is the Meg to the Trench. I really enjoyed this film. I was loving it until we got to the undersea. And until we got underwater. Then it started to slow down. Then I'm like, you want to know what? This isn't as bad as everybody else said it was. I think this got overly hated. Was this as much fun as the first one? To me, no. But I do gotta agree that it felt a little bit overly stuffed with the other animals, like the octopus and some other things in here. But you want to know what? What do you want from a fun action film? It's a shark movie. I even own 47 Meters Down Uncaged. Because it's stupid fun. I love that movie. It's so stupid. But I love a good shark movie. I love shark movies. So at number 6, I could not leave this one off. Technically, yes, this is animated and a family film, but it's also an action film. And I got the Blu-ray steelbook for it. It is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I wasn't going to do an action list without this. The animation is fantastic. The action is freaking phenomenal. There's so much emotion here. There's so much overarching story. I like how this feels like a contained film other than a part 1 of a film. And while this does leave off on a cliffhanger, I think if you watch this as a standalone, this works perfectly well. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is not only one of the best action films of the year, but it's also one of the best movies of the year in my eyes. It is a little overly long at like 2 hours and 20-something minutes, but that's pretty much the only flaw. And my theater experience was really, really bad for it. When it first came out, they had some audio mixing and editing issues that they sent to some theaters. My theater had that issue where the sound was so freaking low you couldn't hear nothing. You could barely hear anything, except for the action scenes were pretty loud, but the dialogue and the music were super duper low. They were super low, and I hated that so much because I love this movie, and I can't wait to rewatch that one. So next up is going to be one that's not out on physical yet. It doesn't come out until February, and that's The Marvels. I don't freaking care. I loved the hell out of this movie. I loved it so much. This movie got overly hated. I don't get why it got so much hate. Is it the best Marvel movie? It's not an Endgame. It's not a No Way Home. It's not a Thor Ragnarok. It's not a Guardians of the Galaxy film. But this was exactly what it needed to be. It brought in 2 Disney Plus Marvel show characters and introduced them into the mainstream that everybody knows and loves now. Everybody loves Miss Marvel now. They all agree she stole this freaking movie away from Captain Marvel. Monica Rambeau is great. This movie is great. I get why some people don't like it. Did the musical world need to be in there? I don't know if that's actually something in the comics or not, but you know what? I really don't care. The Marvels is a fantastic Marvel film, and I love that movie so much. I can't wait to get that film and rewatch it immediately when I buy the Blu-ray. Speaking of a film everybody thought was going to be completely awful, Blue Beetle's number 4. Blue Beetle is super fun. George Lopez kills it in this movie. The action is great. The lead in this is from, of course, Cobra Kai, but Jaime Reyes is a great lead character. I enjoy the actor so much. The action worked for me. The comedy worked for me. The emotion worked. Everything about this movie worked. I just thought that you could have given a bit more towards the family, given a bit more towards the love interest. Could you have fleshed out a couple more things? Yeah. Did it feel like it needed to be 2 hours and 7 minutes? No, but that's most of the comic book films, really. That's most of the comic book films. However, not a problem with the Marvels. It's only an hour and 45 minutes. So, hey. Next up, I know not everybody loved this movie. I'm a Fast and Furious fan. It's freaking Fast 10. This is not as good as Fast 9. It is not. It's not as good as F9. It's not as good as 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is easily the stupidest one they have ever done, right? Because how do you leave the characters, well, one character alive after something that happens here in this film? I don't know. You know exactly what I'm talking about because I got out of the theater and I gave you a call and I said, this is what they did. How is he going to be alive? But I love this franchise. I don't go into a Fast and Furious film going, well, you know, the logistics here don't make any sense and the scientific meaning because of this. No, I want the stupid shit. I want the stupid action. And I got that. Especially involving a big ball, a chase scene with cars and motorcycles. Jason Momoa kills it in this film. He's great. I cannot wait. Jason Momoa was easily the best part of this entire film.
Yeah, for me, he was the best part. For sure.
Is he the best villain? He's close. He's really close. Jason Statham may be a better villain overall, but do I think there's a bad film in the Fast and Furious franchise? No. But I think that 3 and 10 are easily the weakest. They're easily the weakest. But I love them all, and I can't really say a bad thing about them because as a critic, I don't review those films. I don't watch those as a critic. I need to have some fun time for me. Speaking of a fun time, number 2 is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. Why did this 2-hour and 43-minute movie not feel like 2 hours and 43 minutes? This movie was so well paced. The action was fantastic, especially the train scene. The last half hour on this train, oh my God, it is amazing. I don't know how they did this. Everybody says that they don't make them like this anymore. Well, here it is. Here is one of the best action films I think ever made. Is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Having not seen any of the John Wick films, okay? Yes, I know the John Wick films are not in here yet, but those will be watched in 2024. In the early part of 2024. But I really love this movie. It is fantastic. It may be overly long on a rewatch because for me, sitting in a theater for 2 hours and 43 minutes is not that big a deal if the movie is good. It's not that big of a deal if the pacing is good. However, the best action film of the entire year is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. The perfect send-off to the Guardians, my favorite franchise of the original MCU. Do we count Spider-Man? Sort of, but they're Sony properties. They're Sony properties that are in the MCU. So if we're talking about just the Disney MCU, Guardians are easily the best franchise going right now. Guardians of the... I love this movie. I love all 3. This is one that gave you the emotion. It gave you exactly what you wanted. Did it tease some deaths? Yes. Did it confirm any deaths? No. That was fan speculation. And if people were completely disappointed with this film, I think that's their own fault, right? I think that's their own fault because it's speculation. We've all done that. We've all gone into a film and went, I think this person's going to die, and when it doesn't happen, then we get disappointed because our expectations were not met. However, this film met my expectations. It's fun. It's 2.5 hours. The cast has never been better. The chemistry is still there. Rocket Raccoon is the man and is now one of my all-time favorite Marvel characters. His arc in this, giving him more of a story than he's ever had before. I just love this movie to death, and I cannot wait to rewatch this many, many more times. And it is one of the best MCU movies. I'm just going to say that it is one of the best MCU movies ever made. So there's my top 6 action films of the year. Again, I could not put out Spider-Man because I would just feel bad. I'd feel so bad. But what are your best action movies of 2023? And do you have any honorable mentions that you would like to add in here?
Well, I've not really watched. I mean, I watched some action films this year. I didn't do ones like Mission Impossible just because I've not seen any of them. It's not really a franchise that I really care about. Mm-hmm. If I gave any honorable mentions, it would probably be, for me, No One Will Save You falls under the category more like sci-fi action in a way because it's alien based and everything.
Yeah.
I did enjoy that one. I think that Caitlin Dever did a great job in that film, a lot better than one that will probably be in my worst of the year for the action films coming up here when we do those. But and then Spider-Man is an honorable mention. To me, it did feel overly long, but the animation worked. I liked the characters. It has some comedy to it. But we'll see how they round out the trilogy, I guess you could say, and see if it all comes together well. Mm-hmm. I did miss, our older characters that we got towards we got in the first movie, but hopefully we'll get them back in a bigger role in the third one.
Yeah.
But and I think that's about all for the honorable mentions for those. So going into my top 5 is probably going to have some that people hate as well. But starting in at number 5 is Expendables 4. To me, I went in expecting this to be garbage. Mm-hmm. I know people had pretty much trashed it for every review I saw, but I enjoyed it. To me, it was more of just a Jason Statham action film more than it was an expendable film. Mm-hmm. So for me, that worked, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it, and it was good enough to be in my top 5. Then you have Transformers: Rise of the Beast, one that we didn't really need. Don't really need more Transformers, but I think this one definitely helped refresh the franchise, especially after the last 2, because I know a lot of people didn't like at least the last one, but I think the last 2.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it, got a lot of laughs from it. So then the one I just recently rewatched is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. One that I was very shocked to like as much as I did. I'm not a player of the games. I don't play the board games. That I could not play that thing. That game I think takes forever to finish, so that's not for me. But this movie was a lot of fun. It had a lot of good comedy in it, and just one that I thoroughly enjoyed. I even liked the older one from like the early 2000s or maybe something like that. I can't remember exactly when it came out. I enjoyed that one as well, even though it's god awful with the effects and everything, but I still enjoy it. Then you have 65, one that to me they had just the right amount of dinosaurs in it. I know people were complaining about the dinosaurs not having enough in there. I thought they had plenty for me. I liked the chemistry between Adam Driver and the little girl. Thought they acted very well together. And overall, it was a very solid film for me. But number one is Meg 2, The Trench. I didn't have any issues with this. I thought the pacing was fine. I thought everything, it was funny. All the creatures at the end didn't bother me. And for me, this is my number one sci-fi action film of the year.
Now, I will be watching Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves once we get closer to the end of the year, or before I do my best of list on here next week. I have a list of films that I want to get to before we get there, and I'm slowly getting through that. Every single day, I'll be watching a couple more and a couple more and a couple more. But my worst, I don't think you've seen 3 of these. My number 5 is The Mother. Now, this is a film. It's basically about Jennifer Lopez, right? It's Jennifer Lopez, and she is a mother, and she is basically watching over her kid, really. That's basically what the movie is without going into complete depth with it. She's a deadly assassin. She comes out of hiding to protect the daughter that she gave up years before while on the run from dangerous men. I thought this was fun, but it's just a one-time watch. And it's overly long. This thing did not need to be almost 2 hours.
Yeah.
I know that some people skip this one. Like I skipped Heart of Stone. I'll probably watch Heart of Stone as a fun action film. And with these Netflix-based action films, that's just what I'm going to do from now on, is watch these as fun time and just shut my brain off. Now, one thing that I do really want to mention is I was going to stick another film in action and horror. I didn't know where to go with it, and it's Cocaine Bear.
I didn't know either.
It's a horror film about a killer bear, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's an action film because it's a killer bear going after people, and cars are flipping over and climbing trees. It's bloody and gory, but it's also freaking funny.
Yeah, so it falls into the comedy too.
So it falls into all 3. So I wanted to bring up Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, that was my dilemma with that, because that's high up on my list too, but I didn't know where to put it.
And 65 is really good as well. Saw it in theaters, and I really do enjoy it. I don't get the issue with the dinosaurs. I mean, do you want Jurassic Park? If you want Jurassic Park, just watch Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
65 was really, really fun. Next up is going to be The Wrath of Becky. This is a movie I really wanted more from. I wanted more from this one. This one, I thought it was so slow. Even with this short of a runtime, this movie felt really long. There's not a lot of story here for me. Of course, we have great performances, good chemistry between our cast, but the story just felt longer than it needed to be. It felt unnecessary at some points, and the climax of this film just felt underwhelming for me. Yes, it's a fun little film, but if I'm underwhelmed during a action scene, you completely lost me as an audience member.
Mm-hmm.
But The Wrath of Becky is my number 4. 3, I know some people love this movie. I know they do. I don't get it. It's Sisu. This movie was annoying and repetitive. I don't know what else to say. I think it's just, I was not all that intrigued with this film in the first place, right?
Yeah.
This movie could go one of two ways. It could be a complete, gory, bloody, fun action film. And in a way it is.
Yeah, it has its moments.
But it's definitely not one I'll ever watch again.
Mm-mm.
This is one that you were really excited about when the trailer came out. You were so excited about it. I rented it, and you watched it. I believe you watched that one at work, I think, because it was streaming somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
or something. But we both watched it, and I didn't like it. Number 2. Oh, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say, yeah, I didn't hate it, but definitely didn't love it. I think it could have gave us a lot more kills and a lot more to it than what it did. I think if it had done that, I think it could have been one of my favorite in my top of the year. But it just didn't have the guts to go there, I don't guess.
The trailer promised more. Next up is Spy Kids Armageddon. This is not the worst Spy Kids film by any means. That still belongs to All the Time in the World. Now, as a fun family Netflix film, this is fine. As an action film, and as a movie itself, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I was expecting this to be one of the worst movies of the entire year, and this is not even in my top 10 of the entire year. We're just talking about action films here. Because what are these Spy Kids films if nothing but spy action family comedies? So to me, that falls under the mantle of an action film.
Yeah.
This is one that I was sent to review. This is Johnny and Clyde.
Oh, yeah. I was trying to think what that was.
you had to think about it.
Yeah, I never watched it, so I was trying to think, what was that one?
You're not missing much. You are not missing much. This is one that has awful CGI. It's super boring. The only thing that saves this is the acting is tolerable. I like 2 of the stars in here. I like Megan Fox, and I believe it's Avon Jogia or Avon Jogia. It's one of those 2. I really like him as an actor. I want him to succeed as an actor. I really enjoy him in a couple of other films I've seen him in, but definitely not one that I think anybody needs to see. I got a screener link for it to review, and I reviewed it for the studio, and this is the worst action film of the entire year. So what are your top 5 worst action films, or sci-fi action films?
So now my list for the worst technically aren't low scores.
Mm-hmm.
The number 1 worst of the year is like a 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not what you say a half star or 1 star or something. So these aren't the worst that some people have on their list, like you have probably on your list. But first up is Silent Night. This was one that the story could have been so much more had there been dialogue. You know, the no dialogue thing did not work for me in this one. I think that there was just too much there that we needed more story behind, more stuff to go along with what we're seeing on the screen. the action scenes were good, and Joel Kinnaman gave a good performance, but just that no dialogue really hurt that film for me. Then you have The Flash. Don't even know why I put myself through why I watched this one, because I really had no extreme interest in it. I think I might have threw it on for Addison or something one day. But it's definitely not awful. But I honestly don't remember nothing from that movie. It's just very forgettable, and one that I think most people didn't like anyway. So then you have, which I threw this under action because of the type of movie it is. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem.
Yeah.
Not a bad movie. Not a bad movie at all. Animation style was fine, but it just was kind of there for me. There was nothing special about it. There was nothing overly amazing about it. Nothing to make me want to rewatch it or anything like that. So it just kind of fell towards the bottom. And then you have Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, one that I know a lot of people did not like. I didn't hate it. Wasn't a fan of the villain Kang, but it did have some decent comedic moments. Had some okay action scenes, but overall just kind of a there film, nothing overly exciting. And then the last one, it hurts me to put him as the number one worst, but it's technically, move it this way, it's a tie. So I don't want to feel like I'm going to put him at the very worst, but it's a tie between The Retirement Plan and Shazam: Fury of the Gods. Mm-hmm. They both fell in at the same score, and what they promised with like The Retirement Plan, we did not get, in my opinion. I expected it to be a far better action film, more of Nick Cage being Nick Cage and being able to beat people up, and we just did not get that. And Shazam: Fury of the Gods, definitely a disappointment. I did enjoy the first one quite a bit. Haven't rewatched it in quite a while. Probably never will. But this one, just to me, the villains weren't that interesting. The story wasn't that interesting. And the comedy just didn't work much at all. It hit and miss, but for the most part, did not work. So those are my two kind of ties for the bottom of the worst of the year.
And I want to throw a little bit of a caveat in there, all right? I have not seen The Flash, Shazam, or Aquaman yet. I plan on watching all of those this weekend because I am going to be planning on watching The Flash and Shazam: Fury of the Gods this weekend before I go and see Aquaman, because my theater finally got Aquaman in. So 1 week late, but you know what? It's fine. It's okay.
You get to see how it all ends. Probably tragically, but
I haven't heard awful things. I haven't heard awful, but I haven't heard great either. I've heard it's fun. And if you can give me a fun film, as someone who's not a major fan of the original Aquaman film, if you can just have me some, if you can let me have some good fun in the theater, that's all I want. That's literally all I want. But I will be watching all of those this weekend, along with a couple of other ones, which I will talk about next week. I did not make it to the theater this week, but I do plan on going to the theater at least twice, 2 or 3 times this upcoming week. It depends on the show times for one of them. But next up in the final list for this week is going to be the best and worst comedies of 2023. This was a hard one because some of these are they're in a way, they're categorized, but they're not, right?
Yeah.
because some of them are like straight out flat out comedies. They're flat out comedies. However, some of them are like a horror comedy, some are a dark comedy, some are a animated comedy, some are a sex comedy. So they're just very, very different types of comedies. And I'm going to start off with the honorable mentions, and I do have the DVD of this one over here, and I will probably show that off before the end. But it is Robots with Shailene Woodley and Jack Whitehall. That movie had no right to be that charming. That movie had no right to be that fun and that funny. I'm sorry. I gave that one a 4 stars. It was stupid fun.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say this. This has nothing to do with our best of list. This is just the ones that made me laugh the most. And the most consistently. And the ones that I had the most fun with in theater or something like that. Next up is The Holdovers. This is more of a dramedy. It's more of a drama than a comedy, but it does have some very funny moments. I gotta say that much.
Mm-hmm.
I was very hesitant to put this one in there, but it's technically a comedy, and it's the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I really enjoy this movie. It has really funny moments, especially with Bowser and Donkey Kong. Peach has some good lines in there, but this is just one that when I watched it for the first time, I wasn't a major fan of it, but I watched it again with a group of friends, and I enjoyed it more. And the more I think about the film, the more I enjoy it. So I think that the more I watch this film, it'll grow on me each time I do.
Yeah.
And then About My Father is an underrated comedy that everybody overly hated. That one just got overly hated because I don't think they knew what kind of comedy they were going to get. It's Robert De Niro playing a father to a guy who wants to propose to his girlfriend and their families that have never met. And the father is just a bit different. He's very to the point. Say it like that. He's very matter of fact. Another one that got overly hated was The Outlaws on Netflix. This was Pierce Brosnan and Adam Devine. I really enjoyed this one. This gave me the right type of action comedy I wanted. This felt like something like a Ryan Reynolds would have done. This feels like a Other Guys from Will Ferrell. It's an action comedy that I really enjoy, and I can see myself rewatching this one many more times because it's just that fun and it's super duper short. Next up is Somewhere in Queens. Very few people even know what this one is. Somewhere in Queens is a family dramedy starring Ray Romano and also Laurie Kaufman. And Somewhere in Queens is all about this married couple. They live in Queens, obviously. and they're surrounded by overbearing Italian-American family. When their son finds success on his high school basketball team, Leo, played by Ray Romano, tears the family apart trying to make it happen. This movie is fun, it's heartfelt, it's funny, and it gave me everything I wanted. I want this to get a Blu-ray release. I don't know if it has a Blu-ray release, but if it has a physical release, I'm going to have to buy this movie. And if you have not seen this film yet, man, I think you'll really enjoy it. If you're a fan of a film like that, I think you'll really enjoy it. Next up is going to be The Blackening. I appreciated the Friends references. I really, really did. They used some really good jokes in here. I didn't think it was too over the top. It was like a Knives Out mixed with a scary movie type of a comedy, sort of, if that makes any sense. making fun of the horror tropes, but also figuring out who the killer is.
Yeah.
And then next up, no one is going to have this on their list besides me, and that's Family Switch. This is a honorable mention. It is Family Switch. It's a family comedy that worked for me on every freaking level. I don't care. This movie was super freaking fun, man. I loved this. I mean, am I going to watch this every week? By all means, no. But if I need something to watch with my family on like an Easter or a Thanksgiving, this will be one that I can pop on every year for them, and my family will get a big kick out of it. But my top 5, they're not gonna see probably 4 of them. So now I do own 4 of them, but oh, you saw one. Nice sneak peek. But one of them is still out in theaters, and I spoke to you before, or I text you. I'm like, am I going to put these in here? Do these really count as comedies? And we both kind of agreed they do. But number 5 for me is Strays. It's a dog comedy. I'm a dog lover. I have a dog. I've grown up with dogs, and I can only imagine what they're saying in their heads when they don't get their way, or what they're just saying in general.
Yeah.
But this movie is super over the top. It is graphic. It is a lot of bad, foul language in here. It is dumb. It's stupid. There's tons of toilet humor in here, but it's with dogs. What do you expect? I enjoyed this film overall, and I can't wait to watch this many, many more times. A movie I was not expecting to like as much as everybody else did, and I don't love it as much as everybody else does, but it's still one of the best comedies of the year, and I watched it and laughed my butt off many times, and that's Joyride. I don't think I can say some of the jokes that happen in here on the podcast. This is graphic. This is a very graphic film. That's all I'm going to say. It is hard R. It is very raunchy. And if you're not a fan of raunchiness, you're not going to like Joyride. But for me, raunchy comedy is great. I love a good, fun, raunchy comedy like a Blockers, like a Bridesmaids, and like another one coming up after this one, and that's Joyride. But number 3 is No Hard Feelings. This movie had no right to be as sweet as it was either. It added in some very good drama and great characters in here. It was hard R, it was funny, but it also had a ton of heart. Number 2, I wasn't going to stick this in there. I wasn't, but it's technically a comedy. And it's Barbie. It's Barbie. This is a comedy. And this was funny. It was stupid. It knows exactly what the heck it is. Now, if this movie did the thing where everybody was completely taking themselves completely serious, this film would not have worked. And people would have hated this film. But to me, they knew what they needed to do. They needed to be campy. They needed to be over the top. It kind of felt like a 80s film, sort of, in a way. And that's kind of what they were going for. And Barbie is not only one of my favorite films of the entire year, but my second favorite comedy of the entire year. However, the best comedy of the entire year, it's labeled as a comedy, but to me, it's more of a family musical. And it's Wonka. It's Wonka. This movie charmed me. It is funny, great music. I don't need to go into Wonka anymore like I will next week. But Wonka is freaking phenomenal. I will defend that movie no matter what. I mean, you will defend your favorite films of the entire year with no problem.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I will defend Wonka. I will defend Barbie. I will defend anything if I love it enough. But Wonka is my number one favorite comedy of the entire year, and is my favorite movie of the entire year. If you've seen the podcast last week, you might know that answer, but just stay tuned because we have a lot of films to talk about next week. But those are my top 5, and I guarantee you, we're probably not going to have the same top 5. We aren't even going to have 4 of them on there.
We'll have let's see, probably
3?
a couple of differences, a couple of different ones maybe, but maybe not. We'll see as I go through them here.
I'm going to guess 3.
Alrighty, so gotta see where my count my 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so some honorable mentions is, of course, you've already said The Blackening and Strays, 2 films that were really great. I also have Champions in there as an honorable mention because to me that's a dramedy, I guess, if you will. It was a very sweet movie, very funny movie, and just one that I did not expect to like as much as I did. As for the next one that I did expect to like as much as I did, and that's Good Burger 2. I enjoyed the first one, grew up with the first one. This one I did not have high hopes for. I was worried about it, and it surprised me. It didn't feel too childish. It had maybe one kind of childish moment at the very beginning that was a little too much for me, but overall this movie worked. It ties in very well with the first one, and don't think we need the third one, but still, it was good. And next we get into my number 5, which is Joyride. One that I did not expect to enjoy as much as I did. Very raunchy, which is up my alley, and great chemistry between all the ladies in the movie. Just a very fun film. Mm-hmm. Skipping over Cocaine Bear because I don't know really where to put that at. But so number 4 would be Renfield. For me, this is a horror comedy, so it counts. I thought that a lot of people didn't like this movie, but for me, the CGI blood was fine. Nicolas Cage was in it enough. It was funny. It was fun. Some great scenes in it. To me, it was good enough to be at my number 4. Number 3 is Super Mario Brothers movie. Great film. Love the song in it, Peaches. It's technically, I'm not seeing a lot of animation films, so it's my number 1 animation film of the year because I'm not really watched a ton. So, but this ain't saying much. But it's just a great family comedy. Mm-hmm. And then you have No Hard Feelings at number 2. Not much more can be said on that one. Just a fun, raunchy comedy. And then my number 1 comedy, which surprisingly my number 1 comedy, is Candy Cane Lane. To me, the movie was, I don't know if I just went in with such low expectations because I figured the movie was probably going to be crap from what the trailer showed. But it ended up being one of my favorite Eddie Murphy movies as of late. Now, granted, that's not saying much with what he's done as of late, but I mean, you're comparing it to stuff like Coming to America 2 and stuff like that. But to me, it was I enjoyed this one all the way through. I thought Eddie Murphy did great. I loved the comedy style in this. To me, it was a very fun family comedy that kids can enjoy. Adults will understand some of the comedy in it, and the kids won't. And to me, it's just what a family comedy should be.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that is my number one comedy of the year.
And now we go into the top 5 worst. Nothing's worse than a bad comedy. I have no dishonorable mentions for this one. I'm just going to get right into it. Number 5 is Mafia Mama. This movie didn't know what it wanted to be. This movie didn't know whether it wanted to be a hard R action mob flick or a R-rated comedy. There's just so many moments here that are so tonally off. The tonal shifts are not very good in this film, but that's my number 5. Number 4, I was dreading this because you and I were both fans of the show. And I think you were a bit more lenient on this than I was, and that's Zoe 102.
Oh, yeah.
I was completely disappointed in this thing. This thing should have been better than it was. This should not have been as adult as it was. Because there's some unneeded swearing that was in there because, our audience are adults now, so we can swear. Felt very off. The story was bad. They added in a couple of unnecessary things, especially Chandler Massey.
Mm-hmm.
He could have been just completely thrown out of this film. Nothing would have changed because he didn't talk throughout the majority of the movie.
Yeah.
And Logan and Quinn's wedding, I wanted to see more of that. Mm-hmm. Instead, we got the cliched stuff that we see in Hallmark movies all the time, which is not what I wanted from a Zoe 102 film. We do go back to PCA, but it's right at the very tail end, and it's not enough to make it feel like it's magical, and it kind of misses its touch a little bit. But this film just completely... I don't want to say it angered me, but it kind of angered me. It kind of angered me a little bit because I was so disappointed in this film, and I wanted it to be great. Number 3, no one's seen this film. It's called The Corner Office with John Hamm. You're asking yourself, what is this movie? I was asking myself, I rented this thing, and I was asking myself the same question. What the hell is Corner Office? What the hell is this thing? How to describe Corner Office, right? This is pretty much a workplace comedy that is John Hamm, right? And John Hamm plays Orson. It says, in this office satire, Orson, a straight-laced employee, retreats to a blissfully empty corner office to get away from his lackluster colleagues. But why does this seem to upset them so much? This is weird. It's unneedfully weird. It's more creepy than funny. And John Hamm's fine in it. This is a perfect film if you want to take a nap to it. I mean, it's quiet. It's mostly quiet talking. If you're into like a ASMR type of thing, this is a perfect film for you. I mean, it's just a film that was off. It was just... I don't know if I was supposed to feel uncomfortable while watching it, but it was just a comedy that didn't work under any level. The 99 is number 2. A family Disney Channel comedy that I've seen Disney Channel comedies much better than this one, and Disney films much better than this one this year anyways. We had The Prom Pact. Fantastic film. Really good teenage comedy. We also had The Slumber Party, a little charming film. We had Dashing Through the Snow, a charming little film. We had The Naughty Nine, unlikable characters and unfunny. And number one, you know what it is. It's How the Gringo Stole Christmas. How the Gringo Stole Christmas is one of the most painfully unfunny comedies I've had to sit through in the last little bit of being a critic. Not only is it boring, it's poorly made, the chemistry isn't there, it's somewhat mean-spirited a little bit. Now, I don't know if this is how Latino Christmas works, right? I don't know how this actually works, but to me, they were just a little too mean to the guy, even though he was just trying to make the daughter happy. George Lopez is fine in here. It was just unfunny and boring. And there's my top 5 worst comedies of 2023. Hopefully 2024 is a good year for comedies, and I thought we had a pretty darn good year for comedies. With everything in the honorable mentions that almost made the list, I easily could have done a top 10 of comedies, but I just decided to stick to 5. And what are yours? Because I believe I know 2 of them. Because I know you didn't see 2 of them on my list. So
yeah. Well, I got 4 dishonorable mentions I want to just put out there. Now, these dishonorable mentions aren't necessarily low, but they're 2.5s. So, but first off, there's Your Place or Mine, a film that just came and went. Not one that I got much from. Very forgettable. I've seen this. This story was done much better by Hallmark Channel with their film. So that one's down towards the bottom. Next is Dashing Through the Snow, one that I did not enjoy that much. It was okay, had its moments, but overall just did not like Ludacris in it or, much about it. Then you have Don't Suck, a film that wasn't that funny, even though it was supposed to be a comedy. Matt Rife does a decent job, but just overall a very unfunny comedy. And then my last dishonorable mention is You People, the Eddie Murphy film that did not work for me. Did not find it funny. Yeah, it just was not for me.
Oh God.
But that bad for you too, huh?
I'm gonna be honest. I could have done some dishonorable mentions, but You People was just one of those films where it came and went for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of like the Your Place or Mine for you.
Yeah.
But for Your Place or Mine, it worked for me as a romance film more than a comedy.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I enjoyed it more than a lot of other. Well, fine. Everyone else did. Fine. I enjoyed it way more than anyone else did. I probably gave it the highest score out of any freaking critic we know. I gave that thing a few out of 5. But I know why you don't like it, and I completely get it. Mm-hmm. But also, you know why I like it.
Yeah.
But we gotta get you to watch The Corner Office. No. No. Okay, so what are your top 5?
Starting out, you have The Naughty Nine, a film that I watched because we wanted to review it for the podcast. Did not have much high hopes for it because of it being a Disney Channel movie. And it pretty much gave me what I expected. A film that wasn't funny, a film that had no charm to it, a film that had way too many kids in it. You did not need 9 kids in this movie at all. It's just a complete misfire.
Mm-hmm. Then
you have you are so not invited to my bat mitzvah. Did not enjoy this one, unfortunately. I think you enjoyed it, I believe, but it's a so-so.
That's my sentence for it. It was fine. Okay, it was fine. Adam Sandler's daughters did very well in here, but I enjoyed the other Adam Sandler film he was in, Leo, a lot more than I did that one. But it was fine.
Yeah, it didn't work for me. I didn't find it funny. I thought his daughters did fine, but overall the story just wasn't for me. And then we have Barbie. Did not like Barbie. Just was not for me. The comedy wasn't for me. For most people, this movie is best of the year quality. It's award-winning quality. I just did not get that from this movie. Now, my last two, number 2 and number 1, can be interchangeable for me. But it's How the Gringo Stole Christmas and Family Switch. They're both very interchangeable. How the Gringo Stole Christmas just was not funny. George Lopez did fine. I've seen him do better in other stuff. I thought the main girl did good. But the rest of the movie just wasn't funny. It looked cheap. Yeah. Much better in Blue Beetle than in this one.
Do these.
But just a complete miss for George. I hate that he was even in that one. And then the Family Switch, kind of on that same level as Barbie. The comedy just did not work for me. It just was way too, I don't want to say immature, but just not my style. You know, it's I want something. I guess maybe I'm more of the raunchy comedy, I guess, for the most part, than I am this style of comedy that we get from like Barbie and Family Switch. So, but those two, like I said, are interchangeable. But that's my bottom comedies of the year.
And we only got a couple more things for you guys today. We have a couple of reviews, right? And then we will do a quick January preview and tell you guys what we have coming up. So let's start off with the couple reviews we have. We have Evil Dead Rise. Like I've said earlier in this video, Evil Dead Rise is one I was going to skip. Very, very easily skip. However, you love this movie to death. I have a couple of other friends who really love this movie. And I figured, you want to know what? Let's just watch it. Now, would you like to say what this film is all about?
I mean, I think if they haven't watched it by now, then I mean, it's been out since the beginning of the year. So
this is pretty much about this mom who is possessed and she's going after the family. That's basically it. That's basically the movie. Having not seen any of the other Evil Dead films, I can't comment on those. But is this the best one to you? Like, is this the best Evil Dead film?
That's hard. I mean, the original, I grew up watching that one. It's very, very close to my heart. The remake's really great. I mean, it's nearly a shot-for-shot remake, but still very good. I love that one. So it's tough, but it's definitely better than 2 and 3. I like Evil Dead Rise more than I do Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2, which is probably a lot of people would hate hearing that because Evil Dead 2 is a lot of people's usually favorite because that's when they shift into the horror comedy aspect instead of just the straight up horror aspect.
Yeah.
But for me, just these three are just so interchangeable, it just depends on my mood, really.
For me, this film was really, really good. It was creepy. It was gory. It was bloody. It gave me everything that you told me it was. And the trailer did it no favors. The only clip they put out was the "Open Up Now" scene. They put that scene on YouTube, and I went, I kind of want to know what happens next. And I remember watching all the trailers and "Mommy's with the Maggots Now" scene. That was gross. That was very creepy. The makeup on her is fantastic through the entire film. Her performance is great. The elevator blood scene is fantastic. Gives me a feeling of like The Shining with that blood scene. But I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would, man.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been telling me I need to give more horror chances.
Hey, you got 2024. Watch all the horror you want to.
Well, you know my limits now. You know my limits. But then again, we're not in January yet. We don't know all the films coming out. Heck, we didn't even know that It's a Wonderful Knife was coming out at the beginning of that year. So there's a lot more horror to go. But you will keep me up to date on all the horror that I don't follow.
Yeah.
Like The Jester and stuff. And say a Cobweb or something like that. But
yeah.
And next up we have Santa's Sleigh. Santa's Sleigh is a film that came out in 2005. It's 78 minutes, starring Bill Goldberg. That was all about Santa Claus, who was actually a demon who lost a bet with an angel. So he became the giver of toys and happiness, but this year the bet is off. And Santa is about to return to his evil ways. This is just Santa going around killing people. It's Bill Goldberg. The beginning of this film is so freaking stupid, but I loved this opening scene. Oh my god, it's fun. You have James Caan, Chris Kattan, Fran Dresser, and why can't I think of the other girl's name? I can see her.
I can never think of her name either. She's from like Urban Legends and stuff. I can't think of her name either.
I don't know, but oh well. She's in the very beginning of this. That scene's great. It's over the top. It's stupid, but man, is this a bad film. If you're looking at this from a filmmaking standpoint, it's bad.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
the acting's bad. But you're not going to go and watch a Santa Sleigh for good performances and great cinematography. I mean, it's a finely shot film. It's perfectly fine. The action is great. The blood and gore in this is really, really good. I enjoyed the violence in this. Bill Goldberg did give somebody a spear, which I was waiting for. His patented spear. Did you stay for the post-credit?
I can't remember if I've watched. I want to say I have watched the post-credit scene.
It's literally 2
but
words.
I may not. I'm not sure. Huh?
It's literally 2 words. and just him going. It's Bill Goldberg saying, "Who's next?"
I didn't watch it the second time around, but I can't remember if I did the first time when I saw it or not, because that was like a year or two ago. But I didn't this time when I watched my DVD copy. I stopped it at the end.
I can see myself enjoying this one again at some point down the line. If I find the DVD for $1 or something, I'll buy it then. But it's not a great film. It's just a nice little film to throw on if you need something stupid to watch.
Oh.
Because no one is going to say that this is a Christmas classic.
Oh no, it's just something to see people get killed. Watch Bill Goldberg in a film if you're a fan of his, or if you're a fan of wrestling in general, want to see a wrestler in a horror movie. It's just fun. It's stupid fun.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to put it.
And next up, we have the releases for January. Now, we don't know everything coming out in January, right? Every single week, there's different things that come out on VOD. There's things that come to, say, streaming that we don't find out about until they're on streaming, like on Shudder.
Yeah.
Shudder, you spread out a lot more original movies. I think they were putting one out, once every 2 weeks or something like that.
Yes, pretty close together.
But this week, there is nothing coming out that we are going to even review. The only thing that came out this week is the holdovers on Peacock, which you watched.
Mm-hmm.
I watched. We both really enjoyed it. We could easily go into a review of it, but for January, we have some stuff. We have Society of the Snow. This is a foreign language film. It's all in Spanish on Netflix. I may watch this one. I know you probably won't.
No, I'm good.
We have a racing film called Race for Glory. Looks like it's probably like a Lionsgate film or something.
Oh, Lord.
I will be seeing Night Swim. Night Swim at some point next week. This is the one that I don't know if they're going to have a Thursday night premiere for at my theater at like a 4 or 7 o'clock. If they do, I'll be going to the 4 o'clock showing so I can come home and we can talk about it and I can give my review of that one. We have a film called Roadkill. I'm not sure what that is. But this is one that we will be watching and reviewing. It's called Good Grief with Dan Levy. That looks very interesting. We also have a movie. Where is it? Okay, there we go. It is called Self-Reliance on Hulu. That one has Anna Kendrick. I will be watching and reviewing that one just for Anna Kendrick. I love Anna Kendrick to death. Do you plan on watching that one or?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be watching that one.
And this is not including all of the Hallmark films that come out. So we will be watching and reviewing all the Hallmark movies. Don't worry, we will have the Hallmark movies out every single week. But
at least for January for me.
Yeah. In February, it'll be me.
It'll be all you on that one.
January 12th is going to be the big week. We have Self-Reliance on Hulu, Lift on Netflix with Kevin Hart, and Role Play with Kaylee Cuoco on Amazon Prime, as well as a Shudder film called Destroy All Neighbors. There's also one coming out on VOD called T.I.M. That looks like it's going to be like a horror film, sort of. So we could cover that one. One, it depends on what the studio is, and it depends on the rental price.
Yeah.
Is that an X shirt right there?
Yes, it is.
I saw Mia Goth. Yeah. I saw her, and I was like, is that an X shirt?
That it is.
Which, speaking of X, we can't wait to see Maxine.
Whenever it comes out, if they ever announce it.
They put out a new poster for it, so there's that. But we also.
I was just going to say, I think they'll probably just throw it and surprise us one day. Like, here it is. Yeah. It's coming this day.
here's a trailer for it, and then at the end of that, a date or something.
Yeah.
I will also be seeing Mean Girls in theaters because my theater is getting Mean Girls. I'm a fan of the original film. It's great. It's a classic. I have not heard any of the Broadway music, and this is a movie based off of the Broadway musical. So it's going to be a musical version of it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a musical guy. Then we also will have, once the page loads, got it stuck on some Blu-rays here. Here we go. We have a bunch of things that are coming to theaters that I don't even know if my theater is even going to get, unfortunately. Like, say, a Founders Day, or a Which Brings Me to You, and a ISS. But I will be reviewing Justice League Crisis on Infinite Earths. That's a DC animated film. I'm looking forward to that one. The trailer looked really, really good. I'm a fan of the DC animated stuff. Migration is coming to VOD on January 23rd. I plan on seeing that one in theaters maybe tomorrow, depending on the work schedule. It's going to be a very, very short film. And is that it? Is that it for January? That looks like that's about it. But then again, there's going to be a lot. Oh, wait. Miller's Girl comes out on January 26th. That comes out to cinemas. So it's probably going to be a smaller release that does not come to my theater. And we'll probably have to rent that one once it comes out, unfortunately. Who put this out? It's Lionsgate. It's Lionsgate. So that makes sense. The VOD will probably be sometime in February or in March or something. But we will be watching and reviewing that one once that comes out. And Thanksgiving also comes to DVD and Blu-ray on January 30th. I will be watching that one later. Silent Night comes to Blu-ray on the 30th. And so does Eileen. I want to see Eileen so badly. I love Anne Hathaway. But there is everything, guys, for the month of January, not including the Hallmark movies, but you will find those out once we get to those. But we do want to mention one more thing. Starting next week, we will be doing something new on the channel. Since there will not be a whole lot of other new releases, since this is not going to be a massive month for new releases like the last couple of weeks with 40 Hallmark films, all the Christmas films, all the horror films, and the best of lists. Next week, we will be doing our best and worst of 2023. But we will also be introducing something new, and that is going to be movie ranking. We will be ranking certain series of films. And we talked about before the stream, and our first ranking is going to be for all the Scream films. All the Scream films I've only seen once except for Scream 1, but I'm looking forward to seeing all of these again. Seeing what I think about them, and I can't wait. So stay tuned for those. You have seen them enough where you don't have to rewatch them.
Yeah, I don't have to rewatch those. I know them by heart.
But that's also because when either you or Ashley is sick, Scream is one of your comfort films.
Mm-hmm.
Scream is one where she either has one of like 5 different comfort films. It's Scream, Shrek, or Harry Potter.
Don't forget Twister.
And Twister, and the Family Stone, and
Now, she missed the Family Stone this year.
I know, I slacked.
Well, it's still December. I mean, damn.
I don't care. I usually watch it on Christmas Eve and like twice before that. I didn't get to it at all this year.
But there's all that. We will be covering a lot more films, including one that I just bought today. I got a gift card, so the DVD set was free. It was Underworld, the Underworld 5-movie collection. We will be covering those. I have not seen any of them except for Bloodlines. Blood Wars. It's Blood Wars, not Bloodlines. Blood Wars. We'll also be covering the Chucky films, the Friday the 13th films, the Resident Evil films, the Shrek films. At some point, I'm sure we will do the Harry Potter films at some point, because you've never seen any of them in your entire life.
Not what they are.
Nope. Never heard of Harry Potter in my entire life. Monica, what? And Ashley is ready to throw the right, throw a thing across the room. Yes, yeah.
She's being distracted by reading over here.
What?
Yeah. See, there
What
it is.
Nothing.
By Harry Potter. It's okay.
I will watch that to my dying breath.
When we do those rankings, she will probably give her thoughts on why we are wrong.
She will tell us why they're awful films.
And I'll go on a rant about Umbridge because who cares about her?
That's gonna be a fun week. When I watch all the Harry Potter films, and I don't think she needs to rewatch them, but she probably will anyways.
I rewatch them almost every week.
The only one I would probably have to rewatch is the seventh one.
Deathly Hallows.
Yeah, because she usually, when I'm with her, she only makes it to like the third or fourth one.
Well, that's mainly because of the kids. If it was just me, I'd watch it all the way through all the time.
But I remember all the rest of them except for the part one of the Deathly Hallows. But the only reason I don't rewatch that one as much is because it's so freaking slow.
It is slow.
So
I have seen one. I've seen Sorcerer's Stone, Chamber of Secrets, Prisoner of Azkaban, Order of the Phoenix, and I've seen the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll have to rewatch them all, and of course we've all seen the reunion special. That's great for another reason, but
oh my God, tears!
And we're not going to count the Fantastic Beasts films. We're not going to count those. It is just going to be the original 8 Harry Potter films. But there you go, everybody. There is the show for this week. There is the best and worst horror, comedy, and action sci-fi films of the entire year, as well as a little taste of what we have coming to you next week, ranking all 6 Scream films and giving our reviews of them. And my first time rewatching most of them. And I can't wait to do those this week. And next week, I should have reviews of Migration, Aquaman, and The Lost Kingdom. And depending on what day we do the show and if my theater has a Thursday showing of Night Swim, I'll have my review of Night Swim. But there you go, everybody. There are my thoughts on those and our rankings. And we will see all of you guys next week. And where can we find you on YouTube?
Just at Scottie and Ashley Johnson.
And you can find me right here on this channel. We are growing, guys. Let's try to get to 1,000 subscribers. We are getting very, very close. Get them to 250. They are very, very close. If we sneeze, we can all do it. If we all sneeze and just chew the subscribe button, we can all get there. But there you go, everybody, and we will see all of you guys next time.